Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I have another wonderful Scrappy block to share with you. This is week number 24, and there's a PDF attached here. But each and every week, I have been sharing with you a new Scrappy block so that you can use your scrap stash to actually make some beautiful quilts. I hope that you're all using these Scrappy blocks to make up maybe a sampler quilt, or maybe you're grabbing up 2 or 3 of the blocks and you're making a beautiful quilt for your family, for your friends, for your home. And if you do, I would love to see pictures of them. Be sure to contact me so we can get those posted. So today's block, which is week 24 of my Scrappy Block series, is called Stargazing with Clay. This is actually a variation of the Clay's Choice block, and I just wanted to share with you another fun way to use that Clay's Choice block. And in this one, I've used lights, mediums, and darks. And that's what I like to teach all of you from your scrap stash. You can simply pull lights, mediums, and darks in the squares and the sizes appropriate for whatever block you're working on, and then you can actually use up your scrap stash to make some beautiful quilts. I am going to post a link below that will take you out to my video tutorial on how to, my Speedy solutions on how to cut, sort, organize, and get your scrap stash all ready to go in your studio so that you're able to make beautiful quilts from your very own scrap stash. I've got a techniques book. I'll also put a link down there to my books. This is the techniques book that takes you step by step through that process, and here is a patterns book. Between the two, you're going to get 17 beautiful scrappy quilt patterns, and that will help you to learn how to use your scrap stash to make beautiful quilts. So now let's take a look at what's required for this particular block. So here is the block. I'm calling this one Stargazing with Clay, and it's simply made of 3.5-inch squares. The finished block totals 12.5 inches. The unfinished block is 12.5 inches. Finished in the quilt will be 12 inches. So all of these blocks that I'm sharing with you in this 52-week series will be 12.5. They'll finish at 12 inches in your quilt. This one requires squares as well as half square triangles. And let's take a peek at what you need to pull. The PDF that is attached, make sure you go down into the description box and save or print this PDF so that you'll have the information. But you're going to be pulling 4 lights, 4 darks. You're going to be and those are 3.5-inch squares, so we won't be cutting those. They're just simply the 3.5-inch squares. And then we're going to be pulling a bunch of 4-inch squares, and these are what we're going to be using to make our half square triangles. We're going to have 2 mediums that will go with 2 lights, and that will create these 4 center half square triangle units. And then we have 2 mediums with 2 darks here, and those will create the 4 outside half square triangles. Now let's go ahead and see how this can get put together. We're going to start with the half square triangle units. It is a process that I've shown you on almost every one of my 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. Very simple procedure to follow. You're all probably very familiar with it, but I'll show you here at my tabletop how that's done. The first step to making your half square triangles is to place the pairs together, right sides together. So I have these are actually all 4 mediums, but I'm going to call this a medium with a dark and a medium with a dark there. And then these are lights with a medium. And I'm placing them all, right sides together. And then the next thing I'm going to do is simply draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. And then when I take it to my sewing machine, I am simply going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on each side of that drawn line. Then I'm going to sew up, and I'll do it all in assembly line and chain stitching, and then I will cut it on the drawn line. Then I'll press it. You can either press your seams open. If you do press them open, make sure that your stitch length when you stitch these up is a 2 or a 2.2, something smaller, to secure your seam. Or you can press it to the dark, whichever you prefer. And then I'm going to square up each unit using my Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer, and since these need to be trimmed up to 3.5 inches, I'll use trimmer A, and this is the area here that I'm going to be following. I'll lay the triangle on that dotted stitch line and then trim away these edges, and there is a wonderful place here. There's slots on each side that help to get rid of that dog ear on the 2 sides of the half square triangle. So let me take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch a scant 1/4 inch on both sides, and I'll bring it back up to the tabletop. So I have all of my half square triangles sewn, and they're cut apart, and now I'm going to trim them all up. I'm going to match up this half square triangle, the stitching line there, with the stitching line on the ruler, and it's 3.5 inches that each of these need to be squared up to. So there I have lined up the stitching line on the ruler with the stitching line on the triangle, and then I'm simply going to remove the excess fabric here. And then what's wonderful about the clearly slotted trimmer is that you can also eliminate those excess dog ears. So here's what you end up with. And I'm going to take it to the iron and press it. You can either press toward the dark, or you can open the seam allowance and press it open if you prefer. And if you do press your seam allowances open on the half square triangles, make sure that your stitch length is shorter, maybe a 2 or a 2.2 when you're sewing that together. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of these trimmed up and squared up to 3.5 inches, excuse me, and I will show that to you after I've got them all pressed, and we're going to lay out our block. All right, so I've started laying out my block right next to my machine here, and what I want to look for the center are these light squares. Let's see, this needs to go like that. I'm creating a little pinwheel in the center here with my lights and mediums, and in my case that's a cream and let's see, I think I'm going to do this like that. I'm going to put this across from here. Yeah, that's how I want to do it. Let's see, I got to get that right. Okay, there we go. Got my pinwheel for the center. Now I'm going to add my half square triangles with these are really both two mediums, but they give the illusion of two medium and a dark, which I like. Just have fun with your stash. Use what you like. And here we go. Make sure that you orient each of the squares within the block in the correct direction. So there we go. I've got my pinwheel in the center, and I wanted to make sure that these two lights were opposite one another. And then I have my pinwheel, or my half square triangles out here, and my 3.5 inch darks and my 3.5 inch lights are in the corners. There's the block, a very simple one. What I'm going to do now is simply web this block, and by that I'm just going to lay this first one on top here, bring it to the machine, sew it, and then just continue working down this side. Then I'm going to add this column to that, and then the last column to that until I have it webbed, and then I'll web the actual rows together as well. I'll do that in fast motion so you don't have to watch in slow motion. I think part of my block was off screen a moment ago, so I wanted to make sure that you could see all 4 columns and the 4 rows in this particular block. And when I get started on my webbing, I'm going to start with the second square, or the first square in the second row. It's going to go on top of the first square in the first row. I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to grab the rest of these and just continue sewing, and I'll do that here now so that you can watch me get that sewn together. Okay, so I have actually webbed the columns. They're all stitched together with a thread, so the whole thing is connected with a thread, hence the name webbing, because there's this little web of thread that's connecting everything. And what I have done, I have pressed all of these, this top row here, toward the right. I just finger pressed it so that those seam allowances are going this direction. I pressed these seam allowances going that direction. I finger pressed these seam allowances going this way and this one the opposite direction. So that's what you can do. I just finger press at this point. I don't literally take it to the machine, the iron and press it. I just finger press. Now what I'm going to do is continue webbing the entire block by webbing the column or the rows together, and I'll just pick it up and start placing all of these together, and I'll do that in fast motion for you. So the Stargazing with clay block is finished. I just need to get it pressed now and square it up to 12.5 inches. And again, all of the blocks that I'm doing for you in this 52-week series, they're being demonstrated for 12.5 inch unfinished squares. But you can certainly make adjustments to all of these using different sizes. If you're going to be making, maybe if you were using a 2.5 inch square, for the particular, this block, then your half square triangle squares that you would need to pull would be 3-inch squares that you'd have to pull. And then you'd trim down your half square triangles to 2.5 inches. And that would give you an 8.5 inch unfinished block. But again, I'm doing 12.5 inch blocks for this 52-week sampler class. Be sure to pull down the PDF, which is in the description box below, and you might even want to make a playlist of all of these 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. That way you have it easily available to you at your fingertips whenever you want to make a Scrappy block. I want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much for watching my Scrappy video tutorials where you can learn to use your scrap stash. Don't forget to check the links below to watch that video tutorial of mine on Speedy solutions to cut and organize your scrap stash if you haven't had an opportunity to do that. And also don't forget to check out the links below to my website where you can check out these books that I have to teach you everything you need to know about getting your scraps stashed up and also how to make some beautiful quilts. So that's all out there for you. And put together a playlist. I will have my playlist below there, but you can certainly make up your own playlist with all of these blocks. And it would be a great way for you to be able to find this, these Scrappy blocks whenever you're looking for the video tutorials very quickly. So thanks once again. I sure enjoy having you join me every week. And if you do like the content that I'm providing, please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. I love to read comments from my viewers. So thank you so much and stay tuned. I have many more wonderful tutorials coming your way on how to use up your scrap stash. Have a great week and happy quilting.